What is up, bros and broettes? I'm Inkslasher, and today we have the biggest patch so far added into Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Weapons were updated, specialist characters were updated, new game modes were added, and even new characters were added into Blackout. So there is a lot to talk about today. There is a lot that we have to get into. So I guess without further ado, let's just hop right into it. So let's start out by looking at the really obvious stuff. First of all, obviously the gameplay you're watching here is of Gun Game. Personally, one of my favorite game modes that's ever been in Call of Duty. Now, this game mode, they say, is going to be there until November 6th. After that, they haven't announced whether it's going to be out of the game altogether, whether they're going to be changing it. But as of right now, Gun Game is here till November 6th. Now, personally, there's a couple things I don't love about it. First of all, the weapon rotation is exactly the same every time. Even all of the weapons have the same operator mods every single time. So I'd like to see that change up a little bit. Also, I don't like when Gun Game ends with a melee kill. I much prefer when it ends with like a throwing knife or tomahawk or ballistic knife, something like that that's a little bit more difficult to get. But that's just me nitpicking a little bit. Now, the two other new game modes are, first of all, Chaos Domination, which is a really big change to Domination. The score goes up to 300 instead of 200, and rounds end after 150. On top of that, each team can have 6 players, and each team can also use 2 of the same specialist characters, similar to Chaos Team Deathmatch. And then finally, the last thing that they added is Mercenary Team Deathmatch, which is just Team Deathmatch that you can't play with in a party. So then the next thing we're going to look at here is the weapon changes they made, and they've made changes to almost every single weapon, so this one's going to take a little while. First of all, starting with assault rifles as a class. So there is a slight reduction to aim down sights move speed, so you now move a little bit slower while aiming down sights with assault rifles. Also, there is a slight reduction to aim down sights in transition speed for all assault rifles. So as it says there, that affects every single assault rifle. Now, there are also some changes made to a couple of individual assault rifles, starting off with the ICR-7. So first of all, the ICR-7, you're going to have reduced headshot damage, and on top of that, there is a slight reduction to reload speed. So reloading is going to take a little bit longer, and headshots do a little bit less damage for the ICR. So keep in mind these are hand-tested times, but the original reload speed was 1.25 seconds, and then they slowed it down, and the new reload speed is 1.35 seconds. So they just slowed it down a very tiny amount. Now after this, the next weapon that they touched was the Vapor XKG, which they changed quite a bit. First of all, they reduced the close range headshot damage. On top of that, the damage now falls off sooner. What that means is the range isn't quite as good as it used to be. And then finally, high caliber, reduced headshot multiplier, eliminating the possibility of a 3-hit kill. So now, the lowest possible bullets to kill is now 4 for the Vapor XKG, which the weapon is still going to be good, just not quite as good as it was before. Next up, the SMGs. Now, some of these got buffed, but for the most part, they remained very similar. First of all, the MX-9. You got extended all damage ranges. So every single range for the MX-9 is going to be a little bit better, but then it got nerfed to the high caliber, reduced headshot multiplier, eliminating the possibility of a 4-hit kill. So similar to the Vapor, now the fastest time to kill, the lowest bullets to kill for the MX-9 is going to be 5. After this, the Cordite once again got a little bit of a buff, extended all damage ranges, so similar to the MX-9, it's going to have better ranges in every single situation, but the belt-fed operator mod increased the overheat rate. So basically what that does is the belt-fed operator mod makes it so you don't have to reload, but the weapon can overheat. Now, the Cordite is going to overheat faster than it previously did. After this, the GKS, they changed some things to the operator mod. So this operator mod is called the Quad Shot. And what it does is it makes it a burst action SMG, which shoots 4 shots at a time. And what they did is they slightly increased the time between bursts. So what this does is increase the burst delay. Effectively, it makes it a little bit worse. Another change is to the SOGS operator mod. So basically, the SOGS operator mod allows you to dual wield the weapons. And what they did is reduce the hip fire accuracy. Honestly, this needed to happen. If you've ever used the SOGs akimbo, they are ridiculously good. Now they're going to be a little bit worse. It's going to be a little bit harder to aim with them. In other words, they're making it so they're only really good, really up close and personal. Up next, we have tactical rifles, and the first one we got is the ABR, and honestly, I think they did a pretty good job balancing this one in the patch. Basically, this weapon was extremely good with the operator mod and pretty bad without the operator mod. So what they did is they extended the maximum damage range, so up close and personal, it's going to deal more damage for a longer range. After that, the repeater operator mod now takes longer to accelerate the fire rate, which is good. In other words, you have to hold down that trigger longer in order for it to shoot faster. Also, the stock attachment, there's a slight reduction in movement bonus speed. In other words, you move a little bit slower when using stock. And finally, improved hipfire accuracy when using Laser Sight 1 and Laser Sight 2. So a lot of big changes to the ABR there. After this, we have the Swordfish. The Swordfish got a little bit of a nerf here. First of all, high caliber. They reduced the damage on this, eliminating the possibility of a 3-bullet kill. And then also the Pentaburst operator mod got a little nerf, in which they now reduce the extra amount of ammo you get when using the Pentaburst operator mod. After this, to my surprise, almost every single sniper rifle got a little bit of a buff, aside from one nerf to the Paladin. So the nerf to the Paladin has to do with high caliber 2. Now, if you hit an enemy that has 200 health, it will no longer kill them if you hit them in the lower stomach. Anywhere in the upper torso, it will kill them, but lower torso, it will no longer kill them. However, FMJ2 now does improve damage to score streak, and with Stabilizer 2, the player can now hold their breath sooner after they previously already hold their breath. So, a little bit of buffs, a little bit of nerfs to the Paladin, but the rest of the snipers got big buffs. For example, the Outlaw actually got 4 buffs. First of all, improved base damage from 110 to 130. Reduced idle sway, which the idle sway was already pretty low on the Outlaw, but now there's going to be even less, making it easier to aim. After that, increased base movement speed. In other words, you can move faster with the weapon. And finally, stock, your slight increase to aim down sights movement speed. So you're actually able to move faster while aiming down sights as well. So lots of buffs there for the Outlaw. Now the SDM just got a little bit of a buff. First of all, increased clip size from 10 to 11 and reduced idle sway. So a little bit more ammo, and it's easier to aim. Then finally, the Koshka improved damage from 120 to 140 and increased movement speed while using the stock. So, honestly, I think you're going to see a lot more people using the Koshka after this update. It doesn't quite bring that damage to 150, which would make it really good, but it's still going to be a little bit better than it was before. Now, after this is the honestly biggest surprise to me. All of the LMGs got nerfed. Now, I know, especially the VKM was really good, but I didn't think they were that good to get nerfed as hard as they did. So first of all, the Titan, pretty big nerfs to this one. Reduced headshot damage, reduced hit fire accuracy, and stock reduced aim down sight movement speed bonus. So 3 pretty big nerfs to the Titan there. After this, the VKM, once again, 3 nerfs. Reduced movement speed while firing, reduced damage slightly, and the Fat Barrel Operator mod reduced the bullet tracer side. Basically, it makes that Operator mod completely useless. And still, I still think the VKM is going to be good, but I'm shocked that they nerfed that as hard as they did. And then finally, the Hades. The Crossbar Operator mod reduced movement speed and accuracy, essentially making that Operator mod much worse. And finally, the Steady Grip improved recoil mitigation. The only buff that the LMGs got was to the Steady Grip for the Hades. So I was pretty surprised about all of those. I didn't think the LMGs were that good, but clearly Treyarch did. Now, the next one, once again, that I was surprised by is the RK7 Garrison. So this is a pistol, and what they did to this one is slightly increase the time between bursts, in other words, making the burst delay longer, increasing time to kill. On top of that, a slight reduction in reload speed. So reload speed is longer, and on top of that, you have a longer burst delay. So this is a pretty big nerf to a weapon that I already thought wasn't very good. Now finally, we have shotguns, and as far as the SG-12 goes, they just fixed some bugs with the Strobe Light Operator mod, but the MOG-12 got a little bit of a nerf. So first of all, the Choked Barrel, which is probably the best attachment for the MOG-12, the one-hit kill range is reduced, so less of a one-hit kill, and there was a bug fixed with the Dragon's Breath Operator mod. So not too big of changes to the shotguns, but a little bit there. So those are all of the big changes to the weapons in the game. We're going to get to attachments and specialist characters in a second, but as far as what this does for the meta of the game, quite honestly, I still believe that the Maddox is the best weapon in the game. I was kind of shocked that they didn't nerf it at all, so get your hands on it while you still can before they do nerf it, because as of right now, I believe it's the best weapon in the game. Now, on top of that, the other thing that I was shocked by was the nerfs to the LMGs. It's going to make them much worse, and they buffed Sniper, so it's going to make them a little bit better. So those are the kind of things to pay attention to as far as the weapons go. Now, moving on to attachments. So we're just going to run through these really quick. The first one is Grip 2, reduced aim down sights flinch mitigation. So basically, Grip 2 allowed you to kind of flinch less when getting shot. They've changed that a little bit. Suppressor reduced the damage fall off ranges. The ranges for Suppressor are now going to be a little bit worse, so a bit of a nerf for Suppressor. Holographic, dual zoom, and recon optics all are reduced recoil now. So before they'd add recoil to weapons, now it's a little bit less. And then finally, the ELO optic increased recoil. So they made the ELO a little bit worse and almost the rest of the sights a little bit better. Moving on, we have specialist characters. So there are some pretty massive changes to specialist characters here. Starting off with Ajax, this is probably the one that most people complained about. So the first thing is the big change to the riot shield. Explosives now apply partial damage to the front of a deployed ballistic shield. So before, if there was an explosion in front of the ballistic shield, it wouldn't deal any damage to Ajax. Now it will deal a little bit of damage. On top of that, the ballistic shield now takes longer to earn. So I actually don't think this was the problem with the ballistic shield. I actually think it would be better if they shortened the amount of time you had with it, but the earn rate was the same, because for me, the ballistic shield just lasts a little bit too long. After this Nomad, all they did to Nomad was reduce the K9 unit health by 10%, so it is now easier to kill. After this Crash, this one I'm actually a little bit disappointed about. They reduced the team used pack. So in other words, when you dropped ammo on the ground, you used to get 50 score every time a teammate picked it up. Now it's only 25 score. Honestly, I think they should try to promote Crash being used a little bit more, because he is a really good character. So I don't really like this change. I wish they would have left it at 50, but I guess that's the way they wanted to balance it. After this, Firebreak actually got a pretty massive buff. It doesn't sound like it based off of how they worded it, but what they said is increased Purifier flame damage to be a guaranteed eventual kill against a player who doesn't have tactical mask equipped. So basically, if the flame from the Purifier simply touches an enemy that is not using tactical mask, boom, they're dead. So Purifier, pretty massive buff right there. After this, Recon got a nerf so that their sensor dart lasts for a shorter period of time, so it won't be hanging around as long as it did before. After this, Torque got actually a pretty big buff, and it just seems like Treyarch just keeps buffing and buffing and buffing Torque. So what they did here is increase the earn rate for Barricade and also increase the hit points for a Barricade. So in other words, you get more of them and they have more health. And then finally, Prophet. Prophet, I think, has needed a buff from the very beginning. The Tempest just is by far the worst specialist weapon. And they did buff it a little bit, but I honestly still don't think it's enough. So what they did is greatly increase the Tempest projectile speed, essentially making the Tempest a hit scan weapon, and also slightly increased the Tempest chain distance. So once you shoot someone, the lightning will arc a little bit further. Honestly, I think the big buff that they need on this thing is just make it an instant kill. Don't make it so that it downs enemies, just make it so that it kills them. The thing's like a sniper, it's not easy to aim, so in my opinion, make it a little bit better. I still think, even with this buff, it's probably still going to be the worst specialist weapon, at least as of right now. So that is all for the specialist characters. As far as the rest, there's spawn fixes, bug fixes, they fixed challenges that were broken, a bunch of all that stuff. I'll leave links to the patch notes down in the description because there's so many of them. The three other ones that I wanted to go over that are incredibly important. First of all, Stim Shot. They increased the time it takes to fully heal a player. In other words, they nerfed Stim Shot even more than it already was. Honestly, at this point, I don't even see a point in using Stim Shot because it doesn't heal you that much faster than normal. So honestly, I think that's kind of dumb that they nerfed that even more. Acoustic Sensor got nerfed, so they reduced the range at which a sprinting enemy is detected. So this is good. Honestly, acoustic sensor was probably, and might still probably be, the best piece of gear. It basically tells you whenever anyone's close to you. So they nerfed that a little bit, and then they buffed dead silence. They made it so that it is harder to hear someone that is using dead silence. So I think all of those are pretty good changes for the most part, and then the rest of the things are just a bunch of bug fixes. So that summarizes all of the multiplayer changes. The weapons meta of multiplayer has changed a lot after this patch. As I mentioned, I still think the Maddox is the best weapon, but we'll have to see as things change. On top of that, specialist characters are now very different than they were before, so a absolutely massive patch here. Now, I can't forget to mention that they have also made a change to the dark matter camo. Essentially, every 5 kill streak you go on, it changes colors, similar to the diamond camo, and once you hit a 30 kill streak or a nuclear, it turns into the dark matter camo from Black Ops 3, and in my opinion, this looks way better than what they had in the game before. So those are all of the big changes to multiplayer. There has also been some changes to Blackout. For example, you are now able to earn every single specialist character in Blackout. They have introduced the new challenges. For example, the one you were looking at here is for battery. Essentially, you have to find a war machine, kill 2 people with it, and finish with the game with the war machine in your inventory. It's not too hard of a challenge. The most difficult part is actually finding that war machine. But this is similar to all of the other characters. They are now available via the challenges that we've talked about in previous videos. The other big change that they made to Blackout has to do with body armor. So now with body armor, you are able to deal more damage to a player if you shoot them in the upper chest and head. If the enemy has level 3 armor, you deal especially extra damage, that's not a word, but let's go with it, to the head. So when you see someone with level 3 armor, shoot them in the goddamn head. That's essentially what they changed. So guys, that is pretty much it. I tried to cover everything as fast as possible. I know there is a ton of changes to Black Ops 4. So like I said, I left a link to the patch notes down in the description. Hopefully you found this video informative. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. It really does help out the channel. It helps more people find the channel. So I would appreciate that. If you like what you saw here and want to stay up to date on all my videos, the best way to do so is make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you have notifications turned on. But guys, down in the comments, let me know what you think of this update. Do you think these are good things, bad things, terrible things? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard.